There has been a massive decline in testosterone in the last 50 years. So the question is corn killing your testosterone? Older clinical data from the 1950s and the 1960s suggests that a lot of men were testing between 800 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. In the 1980s and the 1990s, the average testosterone level was literally 50 to 100% higher than today. So what the hell happened? Let's look at some data. There was a study in 1999 to 2016 that was conducted on boys to men between the ages of 15 to 39 years old. And their testosterone dropped over 25% in 7 years. From the median average of 605 nanograms per deciliter to 424 nanograms per deciliter. So what the hell is going on? So they say it's parabens in your shampoo, pesticides in your food, microplastics in your water bottle, and even marijuana use. But is it really? I mean, really, think about it. Let's go over this. When was parabens invented? Parabens was invented in the 1920s and 1930s and was released massively commercially in the 1950s. So I guess we had parabens back then, didn't we? Microplastics came around in the 1920s and was mass produced starting in the 1930s and even wider in the 50s. So I guess we had microplastics back then too, didn't we? Pesticides. We had a pesticide called DDT, which was from 1940 until 1972. And it was banned at that point forward. And then we started using a pesticide called atrazine in 1958. And guess what? We're still using that one today too. And marijuana? Give me a break, folks. Marijuana has been smoked since the dawn of human existence. It's ancient. It's been around forever. And we can even argue in the 1950s and 60s, the hippies were smoking a lot more weed than we were today. And they had double our testosterone levels. So, what on earth happened between 1999 and 2016 that would have such a significant drop? 1/4 of the testosterone level in 7 years? Well, I'll tell you one thing that was invented. The internet was invented in 1995. And guess what happened? We had dial-up slow internet. And then came around 1997 where we had cable internet, where we finally were able to start streaming videos. And I can make you a bet that 2 years later, from 1999, I can only imagine what type of videos were first available to young men. Get it? 2 and 2 together? Everything that we had, that science is claiming, that squandered our testosterone through phytoestrogens, through plastics, through parabens, have all been around since the 1930s and 1950s when testosterone was soaring. So it's not valid. Do you see how there's no logic there? The only thing that lines up perfectly was the internet. Finally, all men had the ability in their living room at all times, at all moments of the day, to seek out their pleasures and squander their hormones. So how does this work with your hormones? Coming from somebody who is an avid nerd on endocrinology, science will tell you that corn or masturbation does not lower your testosterone. And I am here to tell you it absolutely does. They tell you it does not lower it directly. But what about indirectly? I'm gonna make this very quick. You have a hormone called prolactin in your body, and every time you ejaculate, you spike prolactin. What happens? You have a refractory period. You don't feel like you want to go again. You don't want to procreate until your prolactin comes back down and you have the need to procreate again. But what happens if you spike this prolactin every single day, 7 days a week without fail, some people even twice a day? Well, elevated prolactin lowers something in the brain called LH, which is luteinizing hormone, and lowers FSH. FSH is follicle stimulating hormone, which is ironically your fertility. So if the signals in your pituitary are lower in terms of sending the signals to your testicles, to produce testosterone, what do you think is happening? At the same time, elevated prolactin causes an imbalance and a rise in estrogen. And we know that testosterone and estrogen work in balance. If your estrogen gets too high, your testosterone will naturally start to move lower until you correct your estrogen, which is where your testosterone will be free to move higher again. So if you're constantly spiking your prolactin, which is lowering LH and FSH, and indirectly spiking your estrogen, which is lowering testosterone, you are lowering your testosterone. Plain and simple. You don't need a scientific study to tell you that. It's just a reality. The only way science can ever document this is if they find a group of 50 men who have never ejaculated. Good luck with that. And compare them to the guys who are jerking off once a day. Or get a group of men who are willing to not ejaculate for 90 days. And good luck getting a group of men to not lie about that. So either way, this is never going to come out. This is going to be at your own discretion, at your own intuition. You need to use your mind. You need to use your gut. You need to use your instincts. It lowers your testosterone. I do not care if it's indirect. If I said right now, I can give you a medication to give you glowing skin, right? But then 3 months in, you start losing hair on your head and you're going bald. What happens? You sit there and you're like, well, does it look up in science? Does it cause hair loss? And it says no. There is no direct, keyword, direct cause in hair loss. But what if it goes from A to B and B to C and C to D, and from D to F, there's a trigger in hair loss? Yeah, it doesn't directly cause hair loss, but does it really matter? You're still losing your hair. So masturbation might not directly cause a drop in testosterone, but it triggers all the other hormones to go out of balance so that your testosterone ends up lower. So it's indirectly tanking your testosterone. Who cares if it's direct or indirect? Does it matter if it's indirect or not? Do you really care? You don't care, because the reality is you take the pill and you lose your hair. Who cares if it took 6 pathways to get to that point, or if it was a direct correlation? The point is you're going to lose your hair. So does masturbation and corn ruin your testosterone? The answer is astronomically yes. So cut it out while you can. That's all I'm going to say about this. Make a comment below. I know a lot of people are going to be enraged by this, and some people are actually going to be on board who've experienced this. So I want to hear from you guys. Until next time, ciao.